Praise the Lord. Somebody in here needs to know today you are not alone. You are not forgotten. You are not forsaken. God didn't bring you this far to leave you. I don't care what storm is raging in your life right now. I don't care what the doctor said, what the bank account looks like, or what the enemy has whispered in your ear. I came to tell you God is your solution, not your problems. Too often we get trapped in our thinking. We look at our struggles and say, God, why me? What if I told you that what you're going through isn't the end? It's the setup. What if I told you that the very thing you're crying over right now is the stage God is building for your breakthrough? Somebody shout, God is my solution. The Bible says in Jeremiah 29:11, "For I know the plans I have for you, declares the Lord. Plans to prosper you and not to harm you. Plans to give you a hope and a future." That means your trial is not your final destination. That means the valley you're in is not where your story ends. Oh, I feel this thing right here. You need to stop magnifying your problems and start magnifying your God. Your problem says you're weak. God says, my strength is made perfect in weakness. Your problem says you're alone. God says, I will never leave you nor forsake you. Your problem says it's impossible. God says, with me all things are possible. I don't know who this is for today, but you need to stop running from God and stop running to God. Stop trying to figure it all out on your own. Stop letting fear, anxiety, and depression dictate your next move. Instead, stand on the promises of God. When the enemy comes in like a flood, the Spirit of the Lord will raise up a standard against him. You are not defeated. You are not broken beyond repair. You are not finished. Oh, somebody lift your hands and say, God is my solution. It's time to change your perspective. Stop telling God how big your problems are and start telling your problems how big your God is. If he did it before, he can do it again. If he made a way in the wilderness, he can make a way for you. If he opened the Red Sea, he can open doors no man can shut. So I dare you right now, stop worrying, stop doubting, stop fearing, and start believing, because the moment you realize that God is not the source of your struggles, but the answer to them, that's the moment your miracle begins. Somebody give God a shout of praise. Hallelujah. Somebody needs to hear this today. God is not the reason for your struggle. He is the answer to them. Too often we allow life's hardships to make us question God, doubt his presence, and wonder if he is truly for us. We look at our situations and ask, why is this happening to me? We let the weight of our burdens make us feel abandoned, forgotten, and overwhelmed. But I came to tell you that God is not the obstacle in your path. He is the very source of your deliverance. He is the one who makes a way where there seems to be no way. He is the one who turns mourning into dancing, sorrow into joy, and weakness into strength. Somebody has been struggling under the weight of a problem that seems too big to handle. You've been tossing and turning at night, losing sleep over something that God already has the answer to. You've been crying, pacing the floor, feeling like you're on the verge of breaking down. The enemy has been whispering lies in your ear, telling you that you're not going to make it, that you'll never come out of this, that this is where your story ends. But I came to declare to you today that the devil is a liar. This situation is not your end. It's your beginning. This storm is not your destruction. It's your testimony in the making. God has not abandoned you. He is standing right beside you, waiting for you to trust him, waiting for you to surrender your fears, waiting for you to believe that he is greater than what you're facing. We live in a world that constantly tells us that our problems define us. Society tells us that our failures are final, that our past mistakes disqualify us from God's blessings, that our struggles are a sign that we are not favored. But let me tell you something. Your struggle is not proof that God has forsaken you. It is proof that God is preparing you. There's no victory without a battle, no testimony without a test, no triumph without opposition. The enemy wouldn't be attacking you if you weren't a threat. The reason you've been feeling pressure, the reason you've been under attack, the reason it feels like everything is coming against you is because there is greatness inside of you. The enemy is afraid of what God is about to do in your life. He's terrified of the anointing that is on you. And that's why he's trying to convince you that God is against you. When in reality, God is the only reason you haven't been defeated yet. Somebody has been walking around carrying burdens that were never meant for them to carry. You've been trying to fix things in your own strength, trying to figure it all out on your own, trying to be strong when you feel like crumbling inside. But the Word of God says, "Come to me all you who are weary and burdened, and I will give you rest." God never told you to fight this battle alone. He never told you to carry this weight by yourself. He never intended for you to live in fear, stress, and anxiety. He said, "Cast your cares upon me, for I care for you." If you could fix it by yourself, you would need God. If you had all the answers, you wouldn't need faith. But sometimes God allows you to reach the end of yourself so that you can finally recognize that He is your source. He is your provider. He is your healer. He is your waymaker. I don't care how impossible it looks. I don't care how long you've been struggling. I don't care how many times you failed. God is still in control. He is still on the throne. He still has a plan for your life. If He could bring Joseph out of the pit and into the palace, if He could take David from tending sheep to becoming a king, if He could take Paul from persecuting Christians to writing most of the New Testament, then what makes you think He can't turn your situation around? You see, God specializes in impossible situations. He specializes in taking the least likely, the broken, the forgotten, the rejected, and raising them up for His glory. Some of you have been looking at your circumstances and allowing fear to take over. You've been allowing doubt to consume you. You've been looking at the size of your mountain instead of the size of your God. But let me remind you that the same God who spoke the universe into existence, the same God who parted the Red Sea, the same God who shut the mouths of lions for Daniel, the same God who walked through the fire with the 3 Hebrew boys, that same God is fighting for you right now. He hasn't changed. He hasn't lost His power. He hasn't forgotten how to work miracles. What He did before, He can do again. What He spoke over your life is still going to come to pass. You may feel like you're in a season of waiting. You may feel like you've been praying and believing, but nothing is happening. You may feel like time is running out. But let me tell you something. God's delays are not His denials. Just because you don't see it yet doesn't mean it's not on the way. Just because it hasn't happened yet doesn't mean it's not already set in motion. God's timing is perfect. He knows exactly when to open the door. He knows exactly when to send the right people. He knows exactly when to bring the breakthrough. You don't have to force it. You don't have to manipulate. You have to beg for it. Just trust Him. Trust that He knows what He's doing. Trust that He is working behind the scenes. Trust that He is aligning everything in your favor. I don't know who this is for, but you need to let go of fear today. Let go of worry. Let go of anxiety. Stop letting your problems dictate your faith and start letting your faith dictate your problems. Start declaring the Word of God over your life. Start speaking victory even when you feel defeated. Start praising Him even before you see the breakthrough. Because the moment you shift your focus from your problems to your God, that's the moment things begin to change. That's the moment mountains start moving. That's the moment chains start breaking. That's the moment favor starts flowing. The enemy wants you to believe that God is against you. He wants you to think that your struggles are proof that God has abandoned you. But today I came to remind you that the devil is a liar. God is not the problem. He is the answer. He is your refuge in the storm, your stronghold in the battle, your provider in times of need. Stop running from Him and start running to Him. Stop doubting Him and start trusting Him. Stop trying to do it on your own and start surrendering to the one who holds all power in His hands. This battle you're facing is not going to break you. It's going to build you. This struggle is not going to destroy you. It's going to develop you. God is using it all for your good. He is turning your pain into purpose, your trials into testimonies, your burdens into blessings. So lift up your head, square your shoulders, and walk in faith. Because the moment you realize that God is your solution and not your problem, that's the moment you step into victory. Life has a way of presenting challenges that seem impossible to overcome. There are moments when everything feels overwhelming, when the weight of stress, fear, and uncertainty presses down so hard that it seems like there's no way forward. Problems have a way of consuming the mind, taking over every thought, making it hard to see anything beyond the difficulty at hand. It becomes easy to focus on what is going wrong, on what is missing, on what seems unfair. The mind naturally gravitates toward the issues, replaying them over and over, trying to analyze them, trying to make sense of them, trying to figure out how to fix them. But the more one focuses on the problem, the bigger it seems to become. The more attention is given to the struggle, the more it dominates the heart and mind. Worry creeps in. Fear takes root. Anxiety becomes a constant companion. The problem becomes so magnified that everything else, including God, seems small in comparison. It is human nature to dwell on problems, to analyze them from every angle, to talk about them repeatedly, to let them fill conversations, to let them dictate emotions. But there is another way, a better way, a higher way. Instead of focusing on the problem, focus on the one who holds the solution. Instead of letting fear and doubt consume the mind, fix your eyes on the one who has all power in his hands. Instead of being controlled by circumstances, Trust the one who controls everything. God is not unaware of the struggle. He is not blind to the pain. He is not distant from the situation. He is right there waiting for his children to turn to him, to surrender the burden, to release the weight, to stop carrying what was never meant to be carried alone. He is not intimidated by the size of the problem. He is not overwhelmed by the challenge. He is not caught off guard by the difficulty. He has already made a way, already prepared a breakthrough, already planned the victory. But as long as the focus remains on the problem, it will be hard to see the answer. As long as worry takes the place of worship, as long as doubt takes the place of faith, as long as fear takes the place of trust, the solution will feel out of reach. God has never called his people to live in a state of fear. He has never instructed his children to carry burdens alone. He has never intended for his people to be consumed by worry. Yet so often, instead of trusting him, his people try to figure everything out on their own. They try to fix things in their own strength. They try to control situations that were never meant to be controlled by human hands. And in the process, they exhaust themselves. They run in circles. They pray, but they don't release. They worship, but they don't let go. They say they trust God, but their hearts are still filled with anxiety. They hold on to the problem so tightly that they don't give God room to move. But what would happen if instead of focusing on the problem, the focus shifted to God? What would happen if instead of replaying the worst-case scenarios, the promises of God were repeated? What would happen if instead of worrying about what could go wrong, faith was placed in the one who makes all things right? What would happen if, instead of magnifying the difficulty, the greatness of God was magnified? Everything would begin to change. The situation might not shift immediately, but the heart would. The circumstances might not disappear overnight, but the perspective would. There is a peace that comes when trust is placed in God. There is a joy that is unshaken when faith is anchored in him. There is a confidence that rises up when eyes are fixed on the one who never fails. The reality is that problems will always exist. There will always be struggles, always be difficulties, always be obstacles. Life is not free from trials. But the difference between living in defeat and living in victory is where the focus is placed. Those who focus on problems will always feel overwhelmed. They will always feel like there is never enough, always feel like they are on the verge of breaking, always feel like they are just barely making it. But those who focus on God will walk in peace even in the midst of the storm. They will find rest even when life is chaotic. They will have joy even when things don't make sense, because their hope is not in circumstances. Their faith is not in what they see. Their trust is not in their own ability to fix things. Their confidence is in God alone. When Peter walked on water, he was fine as long as his eyes were on Jesus. He did the impossible, stepped out in faith, walked in a miracle. But the moment he took his eyes off Jesus and started focusing on the wind and the waves, he began to sink. The problem didn't get bigger, but his perspective changed. The storm was always there, but when his focus shifted from Jesus to the storm, fear overtook. That is exactly what happens in life. The moment focus is placed on the storm instead of the Savior, fear takes over, doubt creeps in, anxiety rises, the situation begins to feel impossible. But when the eyes stay on Jesus, when the focus remains on his power, when the heart is set on his promises, faith remains strong. Even in the midst of chaos, peace is possible. Even in the middle of uncertainty, hope is unshaken. God is not limited by circumstances. He is not hindered by obstacles. He is not bound by time, by resources, by human limitations. What seems impossible to man is possible with God. What looks like a dead end is just the beginning of a miracle. What feels like a loss is often a setup for something greater. But if the focus is on the problem, the miracle will be missed. If attention is only given to what is wrong, the solution will never be seen. If all energy is spent worrying about the issue, there will be no room left for faith to grow. The enemy wants nothing more than for believers to be so consumed by their problems that they forget who their God is. He wants them to be so distracted by what is going wrong that they fail to see what God is doing. He wants them to be so weighed down by fear that they never step out in faith. But the moment the shift happens, the moment attention is placed on God instead of the problem, everything begins to change. The mountain may not move immediately, but the fear surrounding it will. The situation may not resolve overnight, but peace will come in the midst of it. The answer may not appear right away, but hope will rise. Choosing to focus on God is not ignoring reality. It is not pretending that problems don't exist. It is simply choosing to believe that God is greater than the problem. It is choosing to trust that he is in control. It is choosing to surrender instead of stress, to worship instead of worry, to walk in faith instead of fear. Because when the focus is on God, even the biggest problem becomes small in comparison to His power. Even the greatest challenge is nothing in the hands of the Almighty. Even the darkest situation is no match for the light of His presence. So let go of fear, release the burden, shift your focus, stop magnifying the problem, and start magnifying the one who holds the solution. Stop letting worry control your thoughts and start filling your mind with His promises. Stop giving all your energy to what is going wrong and start trusting the one who makes all things right. Because the moment you stop focusing on the problem and start focusing on God, that's the moment you step into peace, into victory, into breakthrough. And when that happens, no problem will ever have power over you again. Life is filled with moments that test us in ways we never imagined. The kind of moments that shake the very foundation of who we are, leaving us wondering if we will ever be whole again. Pain is something that every person on this earth will experience at some point. It doesn't ask for permission. It doesn't wait for you to be ready. It doesn't care who you are, what you have achieved, or how strong you think you are. It comes without warning. And when it arrives, it demands your attention. It brings a weight that feels impossible to carry, a heaviness that can press down on your spirit until you wonder if you will ever stand tall again. Some pain is sudden, striking like a bolt of lightning, leaving destruction in its wake. Other pain is slow and lingering, creeping into your life little by little, until one day you wake up and realize that you have been carrying a burden for far too long. There is pain that comes from loss, pain that comes from disappointment, pain that comes from betrayal, and pain that comes from simply trying your best and still feeling like it is not enough. Pain wears many faces and no one is exempt from its reach. But there is something about pain that is often misunderstood. It is not just an enemy, it is not just an obstacle to overcome. It is not just a curse that comes to ruin your life. It has a deeper purpose, a reason beyond what you can see in the moment. When you are in the middle of pain, it is hard to see anything beyond it. It is hard to believe that anything good could ever come from it. It is hard to imagine that one day you will look back and realize that the very thing that caused you to cry, to break, to question everything was the thing that was shaping you into who you were meant to be. Pain refines, pain strengthens, pain teaches, pain reveals. It strips away the unnecessary, forcing you to see what truly matters. It takes away the distractions, demanding that you focus on what is real. It brings clarity in a way that comfort never could. Some of the most powerful people in history, the ones who have left a lasting impact on this world, did not become who they were without pain. They faced rejection. They faced failure. They faced moments where they thought they would never rise again. But what separated them from others was not that they avoided pain. It was that they allowed pain to push them forward instead of holding them back. They refused to let pain make them bitter. They refused to let pain break them beyond repair. They found a way to turn their pain into power, to turn their suffering into strength, to turn their trials into testimony. Think about a person who goes to the gym and lifts weights for the first time. At first, the pain is overwhelming. Their muscles ache, their body feels weak, and they wonder if they will ever be strong enough to handle it. But if they keep going, if they keep pushing through the pain, something begins to change. The pain that once seemed unbearable starts to transform them. Their muscles grow. Their endurance increases. Their strength becomes greater than they ever thought possible. And eventually the very thing that once caused them pain becomes the thing that makes them powerful. Life works in the same way. The pain you go through today is preparing you for something greater tomorrow. The challenges you face now are equipping you with the strength you will need for what is coming next. If you never experienced struggle, if you never faced hardship, if you never had to endure suffering, you would never develop the strength required to fulfill your purpose. There are some lessons that can only be learned through pain. There are some levels of growth that can only be reached through struggle. There are some parts of yourself that you will never discover until you are placed in a situation that requires you to dig deeper than you ever have before. Pain forces you to confront yourself. It forces you to see what you are made of. It reveals your weaknesses, your fears, your doubt. But it also reveals your strength, your resilience, your ability to rise even when everything is telling you to stay down. Pain does not come to destroy you. It comes to refine you. It comes to remove the parts of you that are no longer serving your growth. It comes to break the chains that have been holding you back. It comes to prepare you for the greater things that are ahead. There are people who allow pain to make them bitter. They allow it to harden their hearts, to turn them cold, to fill them with resentment. They walk through life, carrying the weight of what has happened to them, never realizing that they have the power to use that pain for something greater. And then there are people who take their pain and turn it into purpose. They take their suffering and use it to help others. They take their trials and use them as a testimony. They refuse to let what hurt them define them, and instead they allow it to propel them into their destiny. Think about a wound. When you first get cut, the pain is sharp. It stings. It bleeds. It feels like it will never heal. But over time, something begins to happen. The wound starts to close. The skin begins to mend. And eventually what was once an open wound becomes a scar, a reminder of what you went through, but also proof that you survived. That is what pain does. It leaves marks on you. Yes, but those marks are not there to remind you of your suffering. They are there to remind you of your strength. They are there to show you that you made it through. They are there to testify that what was meant to break you only made you stronger. You may be going through something right now that feels unbearable. You may be wondering why you have to endure this. You may be asking yourself if you will ever make it through to the other side. But let me tell you this. One day you will look back on this moment and realize that it was necessary. One day you will see that this pain was not wasted. One day you will understand that what you went through was not in vain. The greatest transformations often come from the greatest pain. The most beautiful growth often comes from the deepest suffering. When you are in the middle of it, it is hard to see, it is hard to believe. But if you keep pushing forward, if you keep holding on, if you refuse to give up, you will come out of this stronger than you ever imagined. You will come out of this with wisdom that you never would have gained otherwise. You will come out of this prepared for the purpose that has been waiting for you all along. So do not despise do not run from it. Do not allow it to make you bitter or resentful. Instead, allow it to shape you. Allow it to teach you. Allow it to refine you. Because one day you will look back and realize that the very thing that once caused you the most pain was the thing that prepared you for your greatest victory. Life has a way of making you doubt. It puts you in situations that test your patience, your endurance, your ability to keep going even when everything inside you is telling you to stop. There are moments when you feel like you have reached your limit, like you have given everything you had, like there is nothing left in you to keep moving forward. And yet somehow you are still here. Somehow you are still standing. Somehow, despite everything you have faced, you have not been defeated. That alone is proof that you are stronger than you think. There are times when you will feel weak, when the weight of the world seems too heavy to carry, when the obstacles in front of you seem impossible to overcome. But feelings are not always the truth. Just because you feel weak does not mean you are weak. Just because you feel tired does not mean you are done. Just because you feel like you have nothing left does not mean you cannot take one more step, face one more challenge, fight one more battle. Strength is not always loud. It does not always look like confidence, like power, like something bold and undeniable. Sometimes strength is quiet. Sometimes it is simply the decision to keep going when everything in you wants to give up. Life will push you, stretch you, and challenge you in ways you never expected. It will put you in situations that make you question who you are, what you are capable of, whether you have what it takes to endure. And in those moments, it is easy to forget the battles you have already won. It is easy to forget the nights you thought you would not make it through. The pain you thought you could not survive, the storms that seemed like they would last forever but eventually pass. You have already overcome so much more than you realize. You have already walked through fire and come out on the other side. You have already faced hardships that should have broken you, yet here you are. That is proof that you are stronger than you think. Strength is not always about how much you can lift or how much you can endure without feeling pain. It is about how you rise after you have fallen. It is about how you move forward when you are afraid. It is about how you refuse to let life's challenges define you, how you refuse to let failure stop you, how you refuse to let hardship convince you that you are not capable. Every time you keep going when you feel like giving up, you are proving your strength. Every time you stand back up after falling, you are proving your strength. Every time you choose to believe in yourself when everything around you is telling you otherwise, you are proving your strength. There are people who do not realize how strong they are because they have never been put in a situation that required them to be strong. And then there are people who never realized their own strength until they had no other choice but to be strong. You do not always know what is inside of you until life demands it. You do not always recognize the power within you until you are faced with something that forces you to tap into it. Strength is often discovered in struggle, in hardship, in moments where you think you have nothing left, and then out of nowhere you find yourself rising again. You find yourself standing in the middle of the storm and realizing that you are still here, still breathing, still fighting. Think about all the times you thought you could not do it, all the times you thought you would not make it, all the times you thought you were not strong enough, and yet somehow you did. You made it through the heartbreak, through the disappointment, through the loss, through the failure. You survived things that you thought would destroy you. You endured pain that you thought would never end. And every single time you emerged stronger, wiser, more resilient. You did not think you could do it, but you did. You did not believe you had the strength, but it was inside you all along. There are moments when doubt will try to convince you that you are not enough. There are moments when fear will whisper in your ear, telling you that you are not capable, that you are too weak, that you do not have what it takes. But fear is a liar. Doubt is a liar. The truth is you are far stronger than you give yourself credit for. The truth is you have already proven your strength time and time again. The truth is everything you need to overcome what is in front of you is already inside of you. You do not need to become stronger. You already are. You just need to recognize it. Strength is not about never feeling afraid. It is about moving forward despite the fear. Strength is not about never falling. It is about getting back up every single time. Strength is not about having an easy life. It is about facing the hard times and refusing to let them break you. It is about looking pain in the eye and saying, "You will not defeat me." It is about choosing to believe in yourself when no one else does. It is about refusing to let the past define your future. You may not always feel strong, but strength is not about feelings. It is about action. It is about taking the next step, even when you do not know where the road leads. It is about holding on to hope even when everything around you is telling you to let go. It is about believing in yourself even when you have failed before. Strength is persistence. Strength is resilience. Strength is the ability to keep moving forward no matter how many times you have been knocked down. There are people who never discover their full potential because they stop too soon. They allow fear to convince them that they are not strong enough. They allow pain to convince them that they cannot keep going. They allow doubt to hold them back from stepping into everything they were meant to be. But strength is not found in comfort. It is not built in easy times. It is forged in fire, in struggle, in moments that demand more from you than you ever thought you had to give. And every time you rise, every time you push through, every time you refuse to give up, you are proving to yourself and to the world that you are stronger than you think. You may be in a season right now where you feel like you are at your limit. You may be facing something that feels bigger than you, stronger than you, more powerful than anything you have encountered before. But you are not weak. You are not powerless. You are not defeated. There is more strength inside of you than you have ever realized. There is more fight in you than you have ever tapped into. There is more resilience in your spirit than you have ever imagined. And if you choose to keep going, if you choose to believe in yourself, if you choose to rise instead of quit, you will see just how strong you really are. One day you will look back on this moment and realize that it was necessary. You will see that the struggle you are facing right now was not meant to break you. It was meant to build you. You will understand that every hardship, every challenge, every moment of doubt was preparing you for something greater. And when that day comes, you will know without a shadow of a doubt that you were always stronger than you thought. Life has a way of bringing unexpected challenges that shake you to your core. You set out on a path with hope and expectation, believing that everything will fall into place just as you envision. You put in the effort, you dedicate yourself, you dream big, and then suddenly something happens that changes everything. The door you were counting on closes in your face. The opportunity you thought was yours slips through your fingers. The people you trusted walk away when you need them the most. The plan you had begins to fall apart, and before you know it, you find yourself standing in the middle of what feels like failure. The pain of a setback can be overwhelming. It can make you question everything about yourself, your worth, your abilities, your purpose. It can make you feel like all your hard work was for nothing. It can make you wonder if you should even bother trying again. When things do not go the way you hoped, when life knocks you down, when you find yourself at a place where you never expected to be, it is easy to believe that this is the end of your story. But what if it is not the end? What if the very thing that looks like a failure is actually setting you up for something greater? What if the closed door, the unexpected detour, the painful loss is not a sign of defeat, but is set up for your comeback? Setbacks are painful, but they are also powerful. They force you to reevaluate, to reassess, to take a deeper look at your life and what really matters. They strip away the unnecessary, removing the things that were never meant to go with you into your future. They humble you, reminding you that your strength does not come from external validation, but from something deeper within. Setbacks expose weaknesses, but they also reveal strengths you did not even know you had. They push you beyond your comfort zone, forcing you to dig deeper, to rise stronger, to fight harder than ever before. Some of the greatest success stories in history began with failure. Some of the most inspiring people who have ever lived faced moments where they thought it was over, where they lost everything, where they were counted out and underestimated. But instead of giving up, instead of accepting defeat, they chose to see their setback as preparation. They chose to take the pain, the disappointment, the loss, and use it as fuel to rise again. They refused to allow failure to define them. They refused to let obstacles be the end of their journey. They understood that what looked like a breaking point was actually a turning point. When you are in the middle of a setback, it is hard to see beyond it. The weight of discouragement can feel like too much to bear. The voices of doubt can be deafening. But what you must remember is that no setback is permanent. No failure is final. No loss is too great to recover from. Life is not about never falling. It is about learning how to rise after every fall. It is about developing the kind of resilience that refuses to stay down. It is about choosing to believe even when everything around you is telling you otherwise, that your best days are still ahead of you. Growth does not happen in comfort. Strength is not built in easy times. Wisdom is not gained without struggle. Every setback you face is shaping you, refining you, preparing you for what is next. Sometimes what you thought you wanted is not what you actually needed. Sometimes the opportunity that you lost was never meant for you in the first place. Sometimes the delay is not denial. It is divine red. There are things you cannot see when you are in the middle of the struggle. But when you come out on the other side, you will understand why it had to happen the way it did. Think about a seed planted in the ground. From the outside, it looks like nothing is happening. It is buried in the dirt, hidden from sight, covered in darkness. But under the surface, something is taking place. The roots are growing, the foundation is being built, the process is unfolding. And when the time is right, what was once hidden begins to break through the ground and rise toward the sky. That is what happens when you experience a setback. It may feel like you are buried, like you are forgotten, like you are stuck in a dark place. But what if you are not buried? What if you are planted? What if this season of difficult is actually preparing you for the breakthrough that is coming? A comeback does not happen overnight. It requires perseverance. It requires faith. It requires the willingness to keep going even when it feels like nothing is changing. It requires you to see beyond your current circumstances and believe that better is possible. It requires you to refuse to let disappointment turn into discouragement. It requires you to recognize that just because something did not work out the way you planned does not mean that something greater is not on the way. Many times the greatest breakthroughs come right after the hardest battles. Just when you think you cannot take another step, just when you are about to give up, just when it seems like all hope is lost, that is often the moment when everything shifts. That is the moment when the doors begin to open, when the opportunities begin to appear, when the things that seemed impossible suddenly become possible. The key is to keep moving forward. The key is to refuse to let the setback define you. The key is to trust that what was meant for you will always find its way to you. No matter how many detours you have to take to get there, your journey is not over. Your dreams are not dead. Your purpose is not canceled. You may have experienced disappointment. You may have faced unexpected obstacles. You may have lost things that you thought you could not live without. But as long as you are still here, as long as you are still breathing, as long as there is still a fire inside you, there is still time for a comeback. There is still time to rise. There is still time to step into everything you were meant to be. No one who has ever accomplished anything great did so without setbacks. No one who has ever reached their highest potential did so without challenges. The difference between those who rise and those who stay down is not that they never experience failure. It is that they refuse to let failure be the final chapter of their story. They understood that the setback was just a setup. They understood that the pain was not without purpose. They understood that the difficulty was preparing them for something they could not even see yet. So do not be discouraged. Do not let temporary failure make you believe that your future is over. Do not let one closed door make you forget that there are still many more waiting to be opened. Every setback is an opportunity to learn, to grow, to rise stronger. Every disappointment is a chance to build resilience, to develop endurance, to prepare for what is coming next. The story's not over. The best is still ahead. What looks like a breaking point today will one day be the moment you look back on and realize it was the turning point for your greatest comeback. Life will test you. It will shake you. It will bring moments of pain, struggle, and disappointment that make you question everything. But through it all, you must remember that your story is not over. Every setback, every hardship, every unexpected detour is not meant to break you. It is meant to build you. You are stronger than you think. You have more resilience than you realize. You have already survived what you thought would destroy you. And that alone is proof that you are capable of rising again. The struggles you face are not the end of your journey. They are part of your preparation. They are refining you, shaping you, strengthening you for what is ahead. Pain is never without purpose. The challenges you endure today are setting you up for something greater tomorrow. And when you feel like you cannot go on, when it seems like all hope is lost, that is often the moment right before everything shifts. So do not let failure define you. Do not let setbacks convince you that you are not worthy of a comeback. Do not let disappointments make you forget that better days are still ahead. Stand firm in the face of adversity. Rise after every fall. Keep pushing forward, knowing that what was meant to break you is actually building you. One day you will look back on this season of struggle and understand why it had to happen the way it did. You will see that what looked like a loss was actually a setup for something greater. You will realize that every tear, every sleepless night, every difficult moment was preparing you for the breakthrough you did not even see coming. And when that moment arrives, you will know that through it all, you were never defeated. You were simply being prepared for your greatest comeback.